Hello and welcome to the beach. This is obviously just a Zoom background, but I have been working on some different equipment I got. I got this like digital camera. I got this I don't even know if you'll be able to see it with this background. I got this thingamabobber that I have yet to figure out how to get it to connect to my sound on the computer. And then I also got, I don't know if you can see, I guess you can kind of see it. I got a green screen, which is why the background here looks pretty good. But I can't figure out how to get the green screen to remove the background. So I still have some work to do, but yeah. So hopefully things will be improving look and sound wise, but right now the only thing that I've gotten to work is this beach scene behind me. So we're going to go ahead and continue reading The Wild Robot at the beach. Oh no, The Wild Robot. So it's been a few days. Like I said, I've been trying to work on my setup or lack thereof, and it's been pretty rough. So I haven't really been able to record. I haven't been able to get this technology figured out. All right, chapter 29, The Beavers. Every day the beavers swam along their dam, inspecting and repairing it. The wall of wood and mud allowed only a trickle of water to pass through, and it had turned a narrow stream into the wide pond that many animals now called home. I love this illustration. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I don't want to turn my background off because I don't want you guys to have access to my green screen. Those of you that are smarter than me at technology. Okay. Very cute. The robot swung her flattened hand, and the sounds of chopping wood echoed across the water. They were soon replaced by the sounds of footsteps and shaking leaves as the robot carefully walked along the beaver dam with a gosling on her shoulder and a freshly cut tree in her hands. The beavers floated beside their lodge and stared at the bizarre sight with open mouths until Mr. Beaver slapped his broad tail on the water, which meant stop right there. The robot stopped. Hello, beavers. My name is Roz, and this is Brightbill. Please do not be frightened. I am not dangerous. She held out the tree. Trying to turn my volume off on my phone because it just went off. Sorry. I'm never prepared. I'm sorry. Um, she held out the tree. I have brought you a gift. I thought perhaps you could use this in your beautiful dam.
No, thanks, said Mr. Beaver. I have a strict policy to never accept gifts from monst. Don't be ridiculous, interrupted Mrs. Beaver. We can't let a perfectly good birch go to waste. I'm afraid I must insist, said Mr. Beaver. Mrs. Beaver turned to her husband. Remember how you asked me to point out when you're being stubborn and rude? Well, you're being stubborn and rude. Then she turned back to Roz. Thank you, monster. If you'd be so kind as to drop the tree in the water, we'll take it from here.
I am not a monster. Roz tossed the tree like a twig. I am a robot. The tree smacked against the water and sent the beavers bobbing up and down. Just then, Brightbill started peeping.
Ah, hungry.
So Roz dropped a ball of grass into the nest. The gosling thinks you're his mother? Came a quiet voice. It was Paddler, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver's son. His real mother is dead, said Roz, so I have adopted him. There was a brief silence. Then Paddler looked up at Roz and said, You're a very good robot to take care of Brightbill. Mr. Beaver sighed.
Yes, that's very good for you, Roz. But I don't understand what any of this has to do with us.
My son and I need a home, said Loudwing, and that you would help us build one.
Of course she did,
Mr. Beaver muttered to himself.
Loudwing gets me out of one lousy jam, and I spend the rest of my days doing her favors.
Mrs. Beaver glared at her husband.
Oh, sorry,
he said, realizing he was being stubborn and rude again.
Stay right there, Roz. We need to have a family meeting.
The three beavers slipped under the water, and a moment later their muffled voices could be heard inside the lodge. The robot stood on the dam and patiently waited with her son. Yes, Bright Bill, I am trying to act like a good mother. A ripple, and Mr. Beaver's head appeared above the water.
If you bring us 4 more trees, good, healthy ones, maybe I'll have time to help you and the gosling.
That is wonderful, said the robot. We will be right back. Chapter 30, The Nest.
I've built my fair share of lodges over the years. Mr. Beaver stood at the water's edge. But I can't say I've ever built one for a robot and a gosling. So just what exactly do you need?
We need a lodge big enough for both of us, said Roz. It should be comfortable and safe, and it should be near the pond.
How long do you plan on living in this lodge?
I do not know.
Then we'd better make sure it's strong and sturdy.
Mr. Beaver stroked his whiskers as he thought.
Do you plan on having friends over? The missus loves to entertain guests.
I do not have any friends.
No friends? Well, you seem pretty likable for a monster. I mean, a robot. But if you want my advice, you should grow yourself a garden. Your neighbors won't be able to resist fresh herbs and berries and flowers. You just wait and see. So we'll make sure there's a place for a garden, and we'll give your lodge some extra space for all the friends you'll be hosting.
The beaver winked.
We also need to find a way to keep your lodge comfortable when it's cold outside. Our lodge is heated by our own bodies, but I think we'll have to find another way to heat yours.
The beaver and the robot thought about heat for a while. The first thing that came to Roz's mind was the sun, but then she remembered the hot sparks she felt when sliding down the mountain peak. I could heat our lodge with fire, she said. Mr. Beaver blinked his eyes. I will need to experiment, Roz continued, but I think there is a way.
You go right ahead, Roz, said the beaver. But would you try not to burn down our entire forest?
Do not worry, said Roz. I will be careful.
Let's move on, Mr. Beaver sighed. The next order of business is to find a site for your lodge. That meadow across the water would be perfect, but the hares will have a fit if we try to build there. I think we should clear out some trees and build right in the forest. And I know just the place.
The beaver took them along the water and up to a dense section of forest that jutted into the pond.
It needs some work, said Mr. Beaver, trudging through the thick weeds. But this ought to do the job.
Yes, this ought to do the job, said Roz in her friendliest voice.
Job, said Bright Bill.
Mr. Beaver was incredibly skilled at taking down trees, but even he couldn't keep up with Roz's powerful chopping hands. So he let the robot do the hard work. He pointed out the trees and shrubs that needed to go, and Roz started hacking away. By sunset, they were standing in a newly cleared site, and they had more than enough wood to build the lodge.
You did some fine work today, Roz.
Mr. Beaver yawned. I'll return tomorrow morning. We'll pick up right where we left off. What would you like me to do? Said the robot.
Tonight? So you still feel like working, do you? Very good. You can start by digging out these tree stumps, and you can collect all those large flat stones over there. And you can smooth down this patch of dirt so we have a level place to build. That should keep you busy.
The next morning, Mr. Beaver returned to find that Roz had been very busy indeed. All the tree stumps had been dug up, and their holes filled in with dirt. 20 large stones had been stacked, and the ground was now perfectly level. But what astonished Mr. Beaver most was that Roz and Brightbill were huddled around a small, crackling campfire. Mr. Beaver moved his lips, but no words came out. Brightbill was cold last night, said Roz, so I taught myself how to make a fire. But how? I discovered that when I strike these two stones together, they create sparks like this. I directed sparks onto dry leaves and wood until they ignited. Once I had a fire, it was easy to keep it going. And if I put it out, if I need to put it out, I can just add water. Mr. Beaver sat and warmed his paws. I've never seen fire in such a neat little bundle. He stared into the flames. I've only seen it blazing through the forest, burning everything in its path. But this is marvelous. He took another minute to enjoy the warmth. Then he and the robot got back to work. Mr. Beaver asked Roz to dig a trench here, to place large stones there, to arrange logs this way, to smear mud that way. Birds and squirrels perched in the trees and watched the new lodge take shape. It resembled the Beaver Lodge, but it was larger, a great dome of wood and mud and leaves. A simple opening in the wall served as the entrance, and the door was nothing more than a heavy stone that the robot could slide out of the way. Inside the lodge was one big room. It was round in shape. The arched ceiling was high enough that Roz could stand upright. A fire pit was set in the center of the floor, and a mesh of thin branches acted as a vent. Long stones lined the interior walls like benches and were covered with thick cushions of moss. There was even a hole for storing food and water for Brightbill. Oh, here's a picture. Maybe. There you go. You've got yourself a beautiful Pondview property, said Mr. Beaver. What are you going to name it? I do not understand. Why, a beautiful lodge like this deserves a name. We call our lodge Streamcatcher. The robot's brain did not take long. The lodge is for Brightbill. Brightbill is a bird. Birds live in nests. Could we call this lodge the Nest? Huzzah! Squeaked Mr. Beaver. The Nest is a fine name for your lodge. Nest, laughed Brightbill. They stood outside the nest and admired their handiwork until Mr. Beaver's belly began to grumble. That sound means it's time for me to go get dinner. Thank you very much for your help, said Roz. We could not have done this without you. You're quite welcome, said Mr. Beaver, smiling. For your garden, you'll want to speak with Tawny, the doe who lives over the hill. She'll know just what to do. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have to hurry home before Paddler eats all the best leaves. Enjoy your first night in the nest. And that's where we're going to stop today. We will start with chapter 31 next time. I hope that you are having a great, wonderful summer. It's very hot out today, the day I'm posting this. So it's actually my friend's birthday, and she has invited me over to go swimming for her birthday. So that is what my plan is now. It might not be the beach like this Zoom filter, but it will be nice in this 90-degree heat. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're staying cool. I hope that you're staying safe. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.